Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to a review of this thing, the M8A1, one of two Tier 4 American tank destroyers. This is the one on the turreted tank destroyer line, the one that goes through the Hellcat, among others. So, what do you have? Well, obviously the most striking feature about this tank at Tier 4 as a tank destroyer is that it has a fully rotatable turret, which is nice. And this is essentially a series of anti-tank guns placed on an M5 Stuart, give or take. I mean, you can see the hull looks very similar. But it is worth bearing in mind that your turret traverse speed is 18 degrees a second, which translates as god-awful. So do not get this confused with a light tank. If you do, you will wind up very, very dead. Speed limit of 58 kilometers an hour, same as the M5 Stuart, is not too shabby, and the 350 horsepower engine means that while you can do that 58 kilometers an hour, generally speaking you're more likely to be poodling around at 40 to 50 most of the time, I think. The armour, you can get bounces on this thing, but frankly the armour isn't anything to really write home about, and if you are going to get bounces it's probably to the turret front. 370 meter view range, which is very, very decent at Tier 4, and, surprisingly, a 750 meter signal range. This thing gets a Tier 10 radio, which is kind of amusing. So, this is a tank destroyer. It's about the guns. What guns do we get on this thing? Right. Doopy doopy doo doopy doo doopy doo doo. Well, this machine gets 4 guns. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Firstly, this is the 75mm anti-tank howitzer. This may look familiar, and that's because it is. Despite the fact that it says it's only mountable on this tank, it is essentially the same gun that you get on the M5 Stuart, the T18, etc, etc. You know, it's a Tier 3 75mm derp gun. I don't really recommend this gun at all. I mean, and there's no reason why you have to use it, something that we'll get onto in a moment. Then you have this 75mm anti-tank gun M3. You might want to use this, I guess. The thing with it is that it is only usable on the M8A1, so you will not already have this unlocked when you get the machine. And so you do have to unlock it, and you don't have to unlock this in order to unlock the next machine, the T49. But I would recommend you unlock it because doing so allows you to unlock the upgraded turret and then the upgraded gun, which we'll get to. And you will have to unlock that upgraded gun on the T49 anyway, so you might as well unlock this thing. Whether or not you want to use it is kind of up to you. 14.29 rate of fire, not too shabby, 75mm gun, 92 penetration with AP, which at Tier 4 is not terrible, but for a Tier 4 tank destroyer is a bit on the low side. And with APCR, the premium ammunition, that goes up to 127, which is not very good. And 38mm of HE penetration. Basically, the HE performance on this gun is very similar to the Tier 3 howitzer, the 75mm howitzer. Damage per shot is 110, which is very respectable. The accuracy is not very good, 0.43 dispersion at 100 meters. The aim time, however, is excellent. I don't really recommend this gun, if I'm going to be honest, though. Bye. Now, here we have the two guns that I think are really the money makers. Firstly, this 57mm gun, M1. You will already have this unlocked on the T82, potentially. So if you've got any sense, this is your stock gun. And it's basically a 57mm gun / 6-pounder. If you've played any of the British tanks with these sorts of guns, or American, then you'll know pretty much how it plays. Blisteringly high rate of fire, 110 penetration, which goes up to 180 with premium ammunition, which is very respectable. 75 average damage, which is a little bit on the low side, but you can work with it. The accuracy is not especially good, but it's better than the 75 and 76mm guns that this thing gets, so this is the most accurate gun on the tank, and an excellent aim time. You just pepper shots at your opponents until they die. The HE performance is pretty poor, so I probably wouldn't even recommend taking any, to be honest. And then you can unlock this thing, the 3-inch anti-tank gun M7. This is basically a marginally upgraded version of the 75mm gun you saw earlier on. Same rate of fire, same damage per shot, same accuracy, same aim time. The difference is that you get a buff in armor piercing and APCR penetration. Which of these guns you want to use will probably come down to playstyle to a certain extent. Personally, I tried them both out and I preferred the 57mm, but that's me. They're both potentially viable options, and this is indeed the 57mm. The 3-inch gun looks like that. Okay, excellent. Back to the 57mm, because that's my preferred weapon. So, what's the grind on this thing like? And indeed the tech tree in general. Well, the American tank destroyer line, well, so far there's not really much of a grind at all. You go through the T18 at tier 2, which is one of the most overpowered machines in the game, tier for tier, so that is not a grind at all. The T82 is at tier 3, many people like it, I wasn't personally a fan. You lose the armour, you do get decent view range, and you have a choice between two pretty good guns. A powerful, very powerful for its tier howitzer, 105mm, or the 57mm gun. I tended to use the 57mm, I don't really like howitzers. And from there, you get to the M8A1. So when you get to the M8A1, this engine you will already have unlocked, if you've got any sense, on the T82. This radio, you will not already have, unless you've played some of the other tech lines. And ditto for this radio as well. So you're going to have to work with the stock radio with a 325 meter signal range. Oh no, woe is you. Stock turret, in terms of guns, if you've got any sense, you'll already have this 57mm gun unlocked. Now this is what I was talking about earlier on. Sorry, just before I get onto that actually. So stock, you will have the top engine and this 57mm gun. Stock, this machine's pretty good. It's not a painful grind at all. You do not have to unlock any of this little stub in order to get to the T49. You could just grind straight out to the T49, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend you go through this, because while this is a gun that you only ever use on this tank, and I don't really think it's worth a great deal of time, this turret will make your tank a little bit better. Your view range stays the same, your traverse speed stays the same, and your armor stays the same, but you do get a small buff to health, which is nice. And then you can unlock this gun, which you will have to unlock anyway on the T49. Here it is. So I would recommend going along here, and this is not a painful grind at all. It's a good grind, essentially. So, what would I recommend on the crew and for the equipment? Right, well, crew's pretty simple. Commander, Sixth Sense, everyone else, camo, jobs are good and move on. Equipment, well, I just gave it the pauper setup, binos, camo net, toolbox. What equipment would I actually recommend on this thing? Let's have a look. Toolbox is kind of a waste of time. You don't really want to be tracked in this thing. Gun laying drive, waste of time, really. 10% faster aiming, but you aim in 1.7 seconds anyway, so it's probably not worth it. Coated optics is a viable option. Extra boost to your already decent view range. And of course, you'll be moving around, so this is not a bad option at all. Binocular telescopes, also not a bad option, give you a bigger boost to view range, but of course you have to be stationary for them to activate. Gun rammer, not a bad choice at all. Get more DPM out the tank. Ammo rack, I didn't notice any problems with its ammo rack. Camo net, it's a tank destroyer, it's a pretty decent choice, and it's a turreted tank destroyer, so to bring your gun to bear on the enemy, you don't have to turn the tull, so your camo net won't deactivate. Light spore liner, waste of time. Enhanced vertical coil springs class 1, probably a waste of time. I would recommend camo net, binos or optics, probably binos, and rammer. That would be my choice. So let's go and have a quick look at the armour profile, shall we? So here we are, the M8A1, and let's take a quick look at that armour profile. So, what have we got? Well, let's look at the hull first. The front of the hull, 44mm there, 29mm there. These weak points are 25. In short, if someone's shooting at the front of this and you're just flat on. If they shoot the lower part of your hull, you're looking at effectively 50 odd millimeters of armour. The upper part of your hull, you're looking at down at 30. People are going to pen the upper part of your hull. They might get bounces on the lower part if that's where their shot lands. If you can put a bit of angling on this, you can take that effective thickness up a bit. But this is only really going to be useful against tier 3s, realistically speaking. Side of the hull is garbage. This is 29, the same as the top of your upper front plate. 25 at the back, same as the turret. Rear, 25, you're going to get penetrated. What's the turret like? Well, I'm just going to load each of the different guns in case it makes a difference. No, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, fair enough. You have got 25mm on the side, 25 on the rear, garbage. People are going to penetrate the sides or rear of your turret. What's the front like? Well, interesting. The front is 38mm, but you can only really see these side parts, which means that your actual armour thickness there is going from anything like 40 odd millimeters to an auto bounce. Move over here, and suddenly you've got some gun mantler in the way, and you're looking at some actually quite impressive numbers in places, 102. And then this purple bit, basically it's over a much thinner piece of armour, and you've got effectively like 50 odd millimeters here. The armour on this thing, I'd never noticed it really saving me, so don't rely on it. I've talked about it, but really don't rely on it. One thing to point out, this tank is open-topped. Let's just quickly put the stock turret on for a second. Nope, still open-topped. So do bear that in mind. High explosive shells will really wreck your day. Last thing to quickly mention, because I don't think I mentioned it before, the gun depression on this tank is 10 degrees, which is pretty damn good. So you can use that gun depression and use a bit of this turret armour to your advantage. Which is quite a nice feature, but frankly, let's not mince words. The gun depression is nice, but the armour on this thing is not anything to really write home about, so let's just move into a game. And here is the game that I wanted to show you. So, this is a tier 4 game. We are here on... the name of the map will come to me in a minute, perhaps. It's the Magic Forest. Oh, what's it called? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. You either recognise the map or you don't. It's entirely up to you. And I am initially going to try and come up here towards some bushes and see if we can spot anything and indeed shoot at anything. Now I hate the forest on this map. Prokhorovka, I think. Maybe not. Either way, I hate the forest on this map. It is just a death trap. And I try to avoid it if I possibly can. The problem with the position I've taken up here is that it is very difficult to get shots on people, especially early game. But there we go. There's kill number 1. So, we're just having a look to see if we can get another shot on anyone. Panzer 1C. Oh, he's managed to get himself safe. Boo and indeed hiss. We're currently losing 1-2, which is slightly suboptimal. We're just having a look. I should also point out I am using the 57mm gun, as that is my preferred weapon on this tank. I'm not a huge fan of the 3-inch gun. I can't remember what it's called, but I'm not a massive fan of it. I prefer the 57mm, but you know, you might prefer the other gun. It's entirely up to you. It's a genuine choice between the two. There's a T-18 on the enemy team for reasons that escape me. Presumably he's platooned with someone stupid, and that is a reasonably nice hit on the Panzer 1C. It's moving fairly quickly. Not a bad shot, even if I do say so myself, and someone else finishes them off. We're currently losing 2-3 to 4. This B1 appears to be hidden, although I appear to be convinced that I have a shot, because I'm still tracking him, and I was trying to get some shots on him. There we go, there's one, and he's finished off. We are currently losing 3-5. So you can see here that the gun is respectable. I mean, this is a tier 4 match. The gun would be a bit in a tier 6 match, but you've got the mobility to still get some use out of it. But don't try and use that mobility to get yourself, well, to convince yourself that you're a light tank. You're really not. you are in a tank destroyer. And so just use that speed and mobility to get yourself out of trouble rather than into trouble. This is also not a 100% crew, I should point out. 510. Oh dear, this is looking bad. So far I have 1 kill, Armada has 2. Oh, 511. Oh dear. Right, there's their T18. T18 is dead. 711. There's the M8A1. Can I give some assistance against this guy? Oh, there's the T80 as well. So, there's 1 shot into him, and he's dead. My 2nd kill, and the scoreline is now 8-11. That T80 is looking rather unhealthy and is on fire and dying, but the enemy team managed to nail our Sal 40. So, 3 plays 7, 3 plays 6, as Armada nails their Electo. We are currently outnumbered by 2 to 1. And so, we wait, but oh hello targets, and I don't have the render distance to see where he is, unfortunately. So I'm just slightly pondering what to do at the moment. They've got a Marder in the background. Oh, our AMX nails him. Job's a good one. They've got a Marder in the background who appears to be doing rather well and being a little bit disconcerting. With his efficiency, there is the aforementioned Marder. Oh, he gets 1 shot onto me, but I will probably reload before him, and I'm certainly more accurate than he is. And so I should be able to take my time with this shot, and he's dead. And it's 11-12. This isn't looking quite so bad. In fact, this is looking rather doable. We've gone from being outnumbered 2 to 1 to suddenly, well, 3 of us, 4 of them. And between us, we have more kills than they do, which is nice. So that Marder made the mistake of, well, I guess driving out into the open, not being in cover anymore. The Marder's a very flimsy tank destroyer, and he just let me kill him, basically. T80 is dead. And it's all square at 3 tanks remaining per side. But our remaining tanks have 8 kills between them. Theirs have 2, and they're all on that Keyho, who just died to Armada. And suddenly, 13-12, this is looking rather doable. Just tell the team, good job guys, and the Marder agrees. Because we pulled it back from being horribly behind to suddenly being in the lead. We can win this. Now, we still have to be very careful. That Panzer 1C can spot, and that SU is very dangerous. I could have traversed my hull here to make that a little bit faster, but I didn't. Neither, all the same, he is dead. I do want to be careful of this SU-85 though. If he has the top gun, it does an average of 160 damage, and I'm on 161 health. Marder says go and get your top gun, which is nice of him. Oh, and I'm currently typing in chat, otherwise I might have reacted slightly faster to the SU being there on 3 health, but our duck kills him. And that's the game. Voila. Over. So, let's just quickly go back to the garage for some concluding remarks. Overall, what did I think about this tank? It's a good little machine. It's a very good tank destroyer. If we just bring up my service record from it, just to see how I actually did in this machine, and bearing in mind it's not a huge number of games because it doesn't take long to get through it, so, it's a small statistical sample, do bear that in mind, but 76% win rate across 21 games, survived 57% of my games, 66% hit ratio. Basically, I destroyed 3 tanks for every time I lost my tank. I inflicted 3 times as much damage as I took. I spotted more than 1 vehicle on average per game, destroyed more than 1 vehicle on average per game, maximum 6 kills per battle, didn't get my ace tanker but got a first class mastery. It's just a lovely little machine. I wholeheartedly recommend it. Am I keeping it? Well, the fact that my crew is no longer in it might give you an indication. No, I'm not keeping it. Why am I not keeping it? I seem to like it. Well, simply because I already have my tier 4 tank destroyer of choice, the Electo, and I see no reason to switch to this thing. But it is a very good, very fun little machine, and so you may well enjoy it. The one thing you might find, that if you think the guns are a little bit lackluster, you might want to try the other American tank destroyer line with the T40. The turreted line, generally speaking, sacrifices a bit in the way of firepower in order to mount that turret. Anyway, as I say, you may well enjoy it. It's a very nice little machine, and even if you're not a huge fan of it, it doesn't take long to grind through, although I must say, if you decide to go down the American turreted TD line and you don't like this tank, I don't see any reason why you're going to like the rest of them, because they tend, well, yeah, I just don't see why you would like them. This is a nice little machine, and I think you'll enjoy it. So anyway, I hope you guys found that useful and or enjoyable. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.